Wow, it's great to see such a great audience today. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Meredith Ackley. I'm like one of your parents, I'm a professional teenage parent. I have a senior at freshman at Pali High School and also a 10-year-old daughter. I'm here today because my life took a very dark turn in 2012 when I lost my husband to mental illness. And my life path with him was altered in a way that shaped me and has shaped what I've done in the last 7 years to help high school students like yourself talk about mental health. Eric was an amazing guy. We met when we were 19. We were at a summer camp counselors together. We ended up being college sweethearts. We had a little bit of a long distance break and then we got back together. We got engaged, we got married, and Eric had this great little startup that he started working at. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, eBay. But he was there in the very beginning and ran the finance department and was having this incredible career. And he had these moments of like pure brilliance where he would be up all night and doing things. He would either be working on this incredible Excel spreadsheet or writing me a love poem. And actually what was happening with him is he was suffering from his mental health issue that we were unaware of. This went on for him for over 14 years. He was able to handle his diagnosis and be able to do it without seeking help. Unfortunately, a shift in that happened. We had now at this point had 3 daughters. They were 10, 8, and 3. And Eric ended up suffering a break. And he spent the next 8 months trying to work on this. He was diagnosed with bipolar 2 and OCD. And it was a very late diagnosis. He was 39 years old. For me, my whole world just had imploded in terms of being able to manage this for our family. And mostly the reason why it imploded is because people weren't talking about mental health. This wasn't something that I could call all my girlfriends say, okay, I need a dinner plan. I need people to take the kids. I need to help to get through this. Because the first thing that happened to Eric is his own doctors told him that he shouldn't tell anybody about this, that he shouldn't talk about it, that people weren't going to affect his competency. And I can't tell you, for a man whose brain was his power horse, to have someone tell them that he could no longer trust it and no longer use it as a source was just devastating for him. It was a steep learning curve for myself and for him. So we chose not to tell our daughters. To this day, I don't know if that's the right choice or the wrong choice, but I know that it was because of the stigma and because of not talking about mental health publicly and normally in our society that this was the reason why we didn't tell them. So unfortunately, Eric's battle was only 8 months and we lost him. And it was devastating, it was blindsiding, it was awful. And anybody who has experienced or been a survivor of suicide, it's hard to imagine losing your loved one that way. So after he died, the first year was a complete blur for me. I can barely tell you how I got through every day. But the next thing I did is I woke up after a year and I said, you know what? The first thing I did do before when he did die, I instantly went public with his diagnosis and instantly told everybody. At the time, Leah was in 5th grade and Ava was in 2nd grade at their elementary school. They were told exactly what happened and exactly what disease he had and exactly what was going on, because there was going to be absolutely no shame. But in the moment, I didn't have the energy to really take on and figure out what to do next. So what I did is I spent the first year in that fog, and then I came up and I said, you know what? What was our biggest challenge? What really did our family face that it was just I didn't want any other family to face in this situation? And it was the stigma. Why weren't we talking about this? Why couldn't I tell anybody? Why wasn't this just like the guy down the street who had cancer, or the woman who's had breast cancer, and we all rallied around that family? Why couldn't people do that for our family? And it was because this unbelievably oppressive, pervasive stigma around mental health. And I didn't want my daughters to be able to feel like their dad died in any different or any shame than anybody else who loses their life. His was a brain disease. Your brain is an organ. Your heart is an organ. Your lung is an organ. His brain failed him. That is what happened to my husband. That is what happened to their dad. And I wanted them to be able to go into a cocktail party when they were in their 20s and say, yeah, I lost my dad to bipolar when I was 10, and be okay, and no shame, and be just the same as saying, I lost my dad to colon cancer. So here I was, how am I going to do that? What am I going to do? What can I do as I'm trying to raise these 3 girls and get through each day of missing this amazing man that was in my life? And I started, what did everybody, Googling. So I started Googling organizations, and I was like, okay, who's talking about mental health and stigma? Who's working on this? And I found this organization called Bring Change to Mind. And I happened to look at the address of the organization, and it was like, oh, it's in San Francisco. I can do this. I'm nearby. So I went and had lunch with the executive director. And the first thing I said, we were talking about all their different organizations, because, we're thinking about starting this high school club program. And I thought to myself, that's it. That is what I'm going to do. Because Leah was just about to start Pally. And I wanted these kids to be able to talk about it. Because the one thing I realized and recognized when I replayed the tape of Eric's life is, he needed to know that in high school, what was mental health issues, what was going on. Because his first break or his first depression was when he was a freshman at Georgetown. And he didn't recognize it. He didn't understand it. And Eric was from a Latino family, and his family chose to never talk about mental health issues. I think it was stigmatized within their culture. Unfortunately, when Eric was diagnosed, and I turned to called his parents, I said, hey, this is what's going on with Eric. And I said, is there any family history? And unfortunately, they told me there was no family history. Come to find out 3 months after Eric was out of the hospital that his sister actually did have bipolar 2, that she was hospitalized twice, and his parents never told me and never told their kids. And this was just such a loss. So I knew that high schoolers, you are what's going to change this generation. You guys are what's going to normalize mental health. You have the power. You have all this energy and passion. And so I thought, this is who we need to help to build a platform to do this. So when they talked about doing this high school club model, I said, I will do anything to help you guys get that started. So I joined the board. I went around to friends, families, wherever I could do, knocked on doors, and we started with 25 high schools that would be fall of 2015. And it was a pilot program with UC Berkeley. We wanted to be evidence-based to make sure that we could prove that our model worked. And my husband was a data wonky, so I knew that would make him really happy. And we had 25 schools. The next year, we had 50 schools. And now we have 180 high schools who participate in this program in 16 states. And it just proves to the need, it proves to your passion, it proves to what you guys can do with this issue. So I'm here today to just encourage all of you to continue to talk about mental health, to know that from a tragedy, good things can happen, that everybody's disease is worth talking about and everybody's mental health is worth talking about. I feel like I'm just the grown-up in the room who is telling you about this. I actually want to turn it over to a video that I brought about the Bring Change to Mind high school program and let you see a little bit more about what we created and what we're doing. Mountain View High School doesn't have one, actually, a high school club, so if anybody in the audience wants to start one, let me know. We have over 50 on the peninsula right now. But this is why I was here today. I just want to encourage all of you to take care of your mental health. I know that you guys are very stressed out as kids. I see it. I have someone who finally just got into college, thank God, and we're moving through the process, but I've seen what happened to how her spirit got crushed junior year and all that you guys go through. So just watch out for yourselves, take care of yourselves, talk to yourselves, and just know that your mental health is just as important as your physical health. So with that, I'm going to end my part of the presentation, and I'm going to turn it over to the Bring Change to Mind kids.